Hello, welcome to the first ever video on the Brain Retraining Clinic channel. My name is Rebecca Collin, and this is going to be my story, the brief version of my story of how I recovered from 30 years of chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia using brain retraining and autonomic nervous system self-regulation. I first became sick in high school. I actually had the first symptoms when I was 15, so my freshman year in high school. I was a ballet dancer at that time. I was maintaining, 3.86 GPA and also going to probably about 10 hours of dance classes a week. So I was very busy, very ambitious, driven person, which is one of the personality types that tends to develop CFS. And I noticed that my legs suddenly got weaker in dance class, which was really noticeable because I was dependent on the strength of my legs at that time. And in a very short period of time, I think in about just a month or two, I suddenly gained about 15 pounds, even though nothing in my lifestyle had changed, my eating hadn't changed, my activity level hadn't changed. So I now understand that that was the first symptoms of things going wrong, or at least the first really outwardly noticeable symptoms. I believe that I actually did, technically my first symptoms would have been probably I believe that I developed sleep apnea around age 13 or 14. And there's no way to know now, but because I wasn't actually diagnosed with sleep apnea until about 5 years ago, but I had it that whole time, and I believe that that was also related to autonomic dysfunction. So that would have been one of the first things that went wrong, so to say. I did not have a viral illness onset like many people do. I didn't have a flu or anything. I mean, I had the usual kind of winter colds, but nothing noticeable. I just gradually got weaker and weaker, and noticed that I was sleeping more. And by the time I was 18, I was in a very competitive college prep and fine arts high school, which is a wonderful high school called Walnut Hill, which is still there in Massachusetts. It's fantastic. But I was sleeping 16, 17, 18 hours a day every Saturday, and then almost as much every Sunday. I just couldn't seem to restore my energy. And I was having more and more trouble keeping up with schoolwork. And eventually I had to leave school. I had no choice. I was so exhausted that I just couldn't keep up that schedule anymore. And I went home and I finished high school at home. And it was in that year, I believe my senior year of high school, that I was officially diagnosed. This was in the 1990s with what was then called chronic fatigue syndrome, and was put in the same category as the disease called fibromyalgia. The only difference being that if fatigue is your primary symptom, it was diagnosed as chronic fatigue. And if pain is your primary symptom, it was diagnosed as fibromyalgia. And the next 2 years, I was essentially housebound. If I got out of the house, it was a big day for me. Taking a shower was a huge accomplishment. I couldn't cook for myself very much because I couldn't stand up for more than about 10 minutes at a time. So I was very, very sick. And then my mom did me a huge favor. She said, "You're not getting better here. We're going to try sending you to go live in the only other place where I had a group of friends, which was the other coast." So I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. Still couldn't work. I had to get help from my family and help from, whatever government assistance I qualified for. But I did find that the combination of taking a lot of time off of life and then being in a different environment did get me to a point where my energy, I didn't recover. I definitely still had chronic fatigue syndrome, but it did get me to the point where my energy began to come back, to the point where in a few years, I think it was 2 or 3 years after moving, I was able to start working again, not full time, and I wasn't able to handle any kind of schedule like I'd had before. I wasn't able to handle exercise, but I was able to work part time. And we're going to skip way ahead until this year. So that was decades of time. That was, I was diagnosed 30 years ago. And during that time, I did my best. I always worked as much as I could, which for me sometimes meant 3/4 time at best, sometimes part-time. I found that I did better with a job where I controlled the schedule so that I didn't, so that I could kind of schedule it so that I could take, work a day, day off, work a day, day off. And I learned kind of like management techniques like that. And I tried to keep up on the latest research about ME/CFS. I think it was only around 2015-16 that I really began diving in to that, and I began I wanted to come at my disease with fresh eyes, because so much time had passed that I knew that there had been medical advances, and I began researching about that. And what I found, and this was one of my little breakthrough moments, this was kind of a light bulb moment for me, is that by studying the blogs of people who were managing their ME/CFS well, that's where I learned the most. And that's where that regular doctors, medical profession wasn't really helpful. They were just still saying there's no cure, there's nothing that can be done. But people in the real world who were living with this disease were having some success. And that's where I began to learn about, to try different supplements that other people were using, to try light exercise. And I did have a little bit of success with that. I cut refined sugar out of my diet, eventually cut way down on gluten, which is inflammatory for me. And I did see a little bit of health benefits, but nothing that made a dramatic change in my life. I still wasn't able to work full time. I still wasn't able to hold, what you would consider like a normal job where you're on your feet all day or something like that. I couldn't physically do that. And then in the spring of this year, through a really awesome coincidence of circumstances, I answered a roommate ad for a woman who is a wellness coach in the city that I live in, and her name is Jen Johnson, and her YouTube channel is called Thought by Thought Healing. I'm going to link it in the description box. And when I answered her ad, I didn't know what she did for a living. I didn't know that she had her adult life had been living under the diagnosis of fibromyalgia. She had had tremendous problems with chronic pain, debilitating pain. Pain was more her primary symptom. And she had been able to use brain retraining, nervous system regulation to completely heal herself. And she had just recently, at that time that I met with her, had begun her business in helping other people and coaching other people. So I met her to potentially be her roommate, decided not to be her roommate, but we hit it off really well, and we had a great talk about brain retraining and nervous system, and the latest research and the changes that had gone on in neuroplasticity and nervous system regulation. And that opened the doors for me. I think she was the first person I ever heard use the term brain retraining. And I went home, and as I do, because I love YouTube, YouTube has been an amazing resource for me in my life, I immediately began researching. I began looking up articles, doing Google searches, and going to every YouTube channel that I could find that talked about brain retraining and the nervous system, especially in the context of recovery from ME/CFS and fibromyalgia and chronic pain? Well, as you who are watching this video may already know, there is an incredible wealth of information available. And as you may have guessed, if you're familiar with this world at all, one of the first videos that came up was a video by Rewiring, who really is, I consider her to be like a central axis of this recovery community. Every educational resource that I found and every other wellness coach and healer that I found, I actually found through Rewiring and her YouTube channel. If it hasn't been claimed by someone else, I would love to claim the honor of having been healed by Rewiring's teachings, because I don't know, I am now, I no longer meet the diagnostic criteria for chronic fatigue syndrome since I completed my brain retraining program. And I really have to give Rewiring a tremendous amount of credit, not only for connecting me with all the other cutting edge healers in this field, but with inspiring me, encouraging me. I'm going to try not to get emotional. Sharing so many healing stories that I would just take in every day and just feel like, okay, this is real. I can do this. I began, there are several different brain retraining programs out there that you can buy. I think there's 4 or 5 major ones. And I contacted one of the practitioners who himself recovered from ME/CFS, potentially to meet with him and do his program, and quickly found out that his program costs $2,400. Well, I didn't have $2,400. And as I looked at all the programs, I researched them, it became clear that all of them cost between $2,000 and about $5,000, which I didn't have, which was very disappointing because I knew at this point that brain retraining was what I needed. And I felt it was a bit ironic because the reason why I didn't have that much cash lying around is, of course, because I support myself. I couldn't work full time because I had ME/CFS. So I began doing more research. There are some courses out there. I have not taken any of the courses. However, I think that they're fantastic. I think that these programs and these courses are probably really good. And the courses are much less expensive than the program. The courses tend to run about $300 or $400. And I didn't even have that. I could have scraped together maybe $50, but I didn't have a credit card with any availability on it. I couldn't do that. So, and I knew that I was ready to start brain retraining. I knew I wanted to start it. What I did is, through more than 100 hours of research that included people's detailed reviews of people who had done the programs that are out there. They gave a detailed review of this is exactly what the program entailed. I actually created my own program involving 2 sessions a day of somatic meditation. I use several different somatic meditations which are available for free online. I'm going to talk about those in later videos. And I put myself, it included a specific regimen, a specific exercise program. I already had a lot of the environmental factors in place, but there were environmental considerations. And I gave myself a program. I expected it to last 2 months. It turned out that for me, 2 months, while I got absolutely dramatic wins along the way, it was not enough. It ended up being 4 months and about 1 week. And I felt changes in my body right away, changes in my nervous system. I began to perceive my nervous system in a different way, such that I could tell when my nervous system was beginning to become dysregulated, and I began to learn those skills of how to be able to actually regulate my own nervous system. I'm happy to say that I'm still, so my program, my self-administered program, began on July 1st. And if you do the math of when this video is going up, you'll see that that is quite recently. I am still getting positive changes. I feel my nervous system continuing to heal every day. But my daily activities are no longer controlled by fatigue at all. I don't have fatigue, because I often have extra energy. I'm able to work out 5 days a week. I wake up early every morning. I don't need to take naps. I'm still using my sleep apnea machine, but I'm not sure if I need it, because I'm feeling the same way when I wake up now as I did when I had used my CPAP all night, and I'm not sure, I don't think I'm having apneas either at all, or maybe just much less than I did, because for me, those apneas were related to the autonomic dysregulation. I am amazed. I'm amazed that this is possible. Every day is almost like I wake up and I just can't believe it, because to me, this is like if someone had offered me, between winning the lottery and you're going to be given $1 million a year for the rest of your life, but you still have ME/CFS, or you recover from ME/CFS and no money, I would have chosen recovery without even thinking about it, because your health is, if you don't have your health, it becomes limiting to every aspect of your life. So I'm incredibly grateful. It's still a little bit surreal to me. And it's still an adventure. Every day it's like, okay, how is it going to be new today? Because I can feel when I need to go into a session, either a short 10-minute session or a longer session of somatic meditation or anti-anxiety meditation, so that I can regulate my own nervous system. And it's incredible. It's so empowering after so many years of feeling so unempowered. When your health is stolen from you, it's terrifying, and it's really, really hard. And it's just incredible to have it back. I have one more thing that I wanted to say, which I'd planned to do on this video, and I'm kind of tempted to close it here, but I'm going to say what I had planned to say, which is that my heart goes out so much to people, and there are honestly millions of people around the world who are still suffering. Many of those people may be in the situation that I was in, where they don't have $2,000 to $5,000 to do a brain retraining program. I am making a series of videos. They're going to be posted on this channel. It's a course, really. So I'm going to be creating. I have the notes. I am filming, hopefully starting tomorrow, to share the program that I developed for myself with other people. And it's important to me that it not be cost prohibitive. I am going to be selling the lessons individually, rather than most people are selling a course, which is a series of lessons for $300 or $400. I'm going to be introducing the lessons here, and the introduction to each lesson is going to be free. And there's going to be a lot of information, and there's going to be a lot of links and resources available on this channel for free. I'm also selling the exact training of the exact program that I did for $50 per lesson, so that it's not cost prohibitive and anyone can get this information and find out exactly what I did. So I hope to see you back again. I want to sign out by saying, just what helped me so much is just don't give up. you can recover whatever you're going through in life, whether you have physical illness or you're facing other serious challenges, as we all do. I really believe that success is inevitable if you just don't give up. And after 30 years of a supposedly incurable disease, I am now cured. So I hope that that encourages you, and hopefully see you again on this channel soon.